Bíchas Cree agus fáid Ruat Goody and Cumra Spitziata Shahanu. On behalf of County Wexford Sinn Féin, I would like to welcome you all to the 100th anniversary of the Saltmills tragedy, which occurred on the 12th of October 1920. This resulted in the death of 5 Irish Republican Army volunteers while making homemade explosives to combat the notorious Black and Tans in their area. 9 of their comrades survived the explosion on that night. We remember them with pride today, along with all the volunteers over the many decades that followed, who sacrificed their own lives to make Ireland a free nation, a better place to live in, and unite us all equally. We would also like to include Matt Furlong, a Wexford volunteer who died in active service on the 15th of October 1920 in County Meath. Now we'd like to call on Marie Doyle from the H Block Martyrs Sinn Féin Cumann, New Ross, to read the proclamation.
Public na Héireann, the Provisional Government of the Irish Republic, to the people of Ireland. Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Having organised and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and through her open military organisations, the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army, having patiently perfected her discipline, having resolutely waited for the right moment to reveal itself, she now seizes that moment and, supported by her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe, but relying in the first on her own strength, she strikes in full confidence of victory. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies, to be sovereign and indefeasible. The long usurpation of that right by a foreign people and government has not extinguished the right, nor can it be extinguished except by the destruction of the Irish people. In every generation, the Irish people have asserted their right to national freedom and sovereignty. 6 times during the past 300 years, they've asserted it in arms, standing on that fundamental right and again asserting it in arms in the face of the world. We hereby proclaim the Irish Republic as sovereign, independent state. We pledge our lives and the lives of our comrades in arms to the cause of its freedom and of its welfare, and of its exaltation among the nations. The Irish Republic is entitled to and hereby claims the allegiance of every Irish man and Irish woman. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all its citizens, and declare its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation and all of its parts, cherishing all the children of the nation equally, and oblivious of the differences carefully fostered by alien government which have divided a minority from the majority in the past. Until our arms have brought the opportune moment for the establishment of a permanent national government, representative of the whole people of Ireland and elected by the suffrages of all her men and women, the provisional government hereby constituted will administer the civil and military affairs of the Republic in trust for the people. We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessings we invoke upon our arms, and we pray that no one who serves that cause will dishonour it by cowardice, inhumanity or rapine. In the supreme hour, the Irish nation must, by its valour and discipline, and by its readiness of its children to sacrifice themselves for the common good, prove itself worthy of the august destiny to which it is called. Signed on behalf of the Provisional Government, Thomas J. Clark, Sean McDermott, Thomas McDonough, P.H. Pearce, Eamon Kent, James Connolly, Joseph Plunkett.
Gur Magat Marie, Visha Shin Kahuntak. This morning, under COVID-19 guidelines, wreaths were separately laid as a mark of respect and honour to our fallen comrades. The wreaths were laid by Councillor Tom Ford, Philip Brown and Paddy Revel on behalf of the relatives. Our next guest is the wonderful singer Grace Sheen, who will sing the Ballad of St. Kearns.
October the 12th is a time we hold dear, when four came from Wexford, abandoned all fears. And although 1920, many years ago, We remember in St. Kearns every year we go. These brave men from Wexford set the drill and to train, not knowing that 5 wouldn't be home again. We've lost brave Fitzgerald, Roach, Gleeson and Byrne, and along with young Walsh there was no return. Well, how did it happen? Sure, no one can say. A premature explosion that took them away. That cold winter's time, that cold fateful night. They died Irish heroes in our freedom fight. Now 9 of their comrades survived the blast, but life and their freedom was too short to last. Locked up in old Dartmoor for the whole of 2 years, but they never submitted or showed any fear. Ned and Pat Kelly, John Timmins, Pat Revel, with Patrick O'Grady in the hands of the devil. Tom Keynes, Tom Gleeson, Stephen Barron, McConway, in dark squalid cells for 2 years did stay. Now the years have rolled on, all 14 now past. But one thing's for sure, their memories will last. In Tintern, Rathhangan, Ballycallan and Pulfur, those brave Irish patriots will rest evermore. So every October we go to St. Cairns, respecting their bravery, Miss Sharon she earns. And when our dear islands unshackled we'll see an Irish republic where all can be free.
Thanks very much, Grace. That was a great rendition of the St. Kearns ballad. Now we would like to call on Paddy Revel to give us a personal family testimony of the happenings of that fateful night on the 12th of October 1920, as relayed to him through generations of his own family and relatives.
Next Monday will be the 100th anniversary of the explosion in St. Kearns that killed 5 volunteers of the 2nd Battalion of the South Wexford IRA. On the night in question, my grandfather, Michael Gleeson, was coming from Saltmills. He'd been visiting his sister Bridget, and on the way back over the bridge, the sky lit up and a massive explosion took place. He went over because his brother was at the scene of the explosion, and he tried to find him. He didn't find him, so he went to look for help with the neighbours as he lived on the shore road. They came back with horse and cars and donkeys' carts, and they went to the aid of the wounded and the dying. They placed candles beside him because it was a really calm night, and they done the best they could for him. They got him out of there. He found his brother, who was Thomas Gleeson, and he had severe injuries. He was treated briefly in the hospital, and then he ended up in the prison in Wales. And for the rest of his life, his injury, especially the burns, didn't heal. He wept and he had severe pain. And on this 100th anniversary, I think we should all give a thought to those men and their relatives and the survivors, and maybe learn something from what happened down there.
In conclusion, it is an honour and a privilege to introduce a woman that is changing and will change the history of our country for the better. An inspirational and dynamic leader to us all. and the woman who rightfully should be the Taoiseach. Uachtarán Sinn Féin, Mary Lou MacDonald.
Accordia, we gather today to mark the centenary of the Saltmills explosion, a tragedy which resulted in the greatest number of casualties of the Tan War in County Wexford. On the 12th of October 1920, an IRA unit were preparing explosives in an old house located at St. Kearns Saltmills in South Wexford. The explosives detonated prematurely. 5 volunteers from the South Wexford IRA were killed and 9 others survived. The injured were arrested by Crown forces and many were deported to English prisons. The deaths of Michael Fitzgerald, Martin Roach, James Gleeson, Robert Walsh and James Byrne remind us of the dangers faced and the risks taken by those who fought to end British rule in Ireland. The hardships endured by their comrades who survived are a testament to what volunteers and their families endured as part of the freedom struggle. It was a perilous path, but it's one they walked nonetheless. They were motivated by a great ideal, a free, independent Irish Republic, an ideal we hold dear today. When Churchill sent the Black and Tans to Ireland in 1920, his idea was to terrorise the population and to crush the fight for independence. It was the tactics he had deployed in Kenya and Sudan as the empire began to crumble at the feet of freedom-loving people throughout the world, and again when the Kurds rose up in rebellion against the British. Churchill hadn't reckoned with the bravery and determination of men like Fitzgerald and Roach, Gleeson, Walsh and Byrne. He didn't understand the motivation of people who yearned for freedom and who were prepared to struggle for it. All 5 volunteers who died on that fateful evening were relatively young men. The oldest of the group, Robert Walsh, was 36 years of age. Michael Fitzgerald was just 21. They could have taken an easier road. They could have left the fight to someone else. That's what Churchill expected to happen. But instead, they stood up and they put their lives on the line for the cause of Irish freedom. They typified that famed fighting spirit of County Wexford. That revolutionary republican zeal of this county is woven into the historical fabric of Ireland. It is a proud republican spirit that was witnessed at Vinegar Hill on the morning of the 1916 rebellion and in the resolve of the Wexford IRA to reorganise and to take the fight to the Crown forces during the Tan War. It was that same spirit that saw Wexford return Johnny Mythen as its first Sinn Féin TD since 1922. While Republicans have never sought to glorify war, it is important that we remember those brave volunteers who did extraordinary things on our behalf and for the freedom of our country. Whether it was in Wexford in 1920 or West Belfast in 1969, war was brought to Irish shores by misguided and ill-thought decisions taken in corridors of power at Whitehall, but by people with no understanding, no regard for Ireland or our people, regardless of tradition or belief. It's that very same mindset that delivered Brexit. It's the attitude that, if not challenged, will do untold damage to the political and economic relationships between these islands. So we won't allow Boris Johnson to unpick the Good Friday Agreement and the basis upon which the hard-fought peace in Ireland has been built. Ireland and Irish people cannot be collateral damage in the increasingly erratic and ill-thought-out decision-making which characterises the current incumbent at Downing Street. Brexit and COVID-19 have reshaped the debate on Irish unity. Conversations on unity are now happening every day in every corner of Ireland. Unity is no longer seen as simply an idealistic aspiration. More people than ever see unity as the very best idea for the future of Ireland. Now is the time to progress this journey together. A new Ireland, free from division, inequality and injustice. A changed Ireland that provides safety and prosperity for all who call this island home. An Ireland in which ordinary workers and families have decent housing, good healthcare and a fair economy that works for them. A united Ireland. Luc Gorman, Abu.
Well folks, that's the end of our contribution. I hope you enjoyed our short, although limited tribute to the brave men and women of the Irish Republican Army and the volunteers of 1920. I hope we can all take inspiration from their daring deeds and continue to work hard for the future and the ultimate goal of a united Ireland based on liberty, equality and justice. Gar maith agaibh go léir.